Y estamos hablando de solidaridad intergeneracional, pero hoy también tenemos que hablar de internacional, porque jarraian ongietorria emango diogu janban de VENISi, Network of Institutions and Leaders for Future Generations erakundearen lehendakariordea eta herberetako etorkizuneko Belaunaldien arartekoa. Su trabajo vincula cosas tan importantes y que están tan al orden del día como pueden ser los derechos humanos, la sostenibilidad y la gobernanza a largo plazo. Y atención, porque hay una cosa que interesa mucho a los jóvenes también, que también impulsa en Europa la necesidad de institucionalizar la voz de las generaciones futuras en la toma de decisiones. Así que, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, please welcome to Mr. Jan van de VENIS. The stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Inguruan, buenos días. Goedemorgen, this is what I would say in Dutch. It's an honor for me to be here and to be with you today and to talk about the rights of future generations. I think I heard some of the functions that I have in the Netherlands and abroad mentioned. I think one is very important to also mention is that I'm the chair, the president of a national park in the Netherlands and the chair of the 21 cooperating national parks. And why do I say this? I am an activist, I'm a civil servant, I work with civil society, but I'm also in public governance, and I see that it's almost impossible to put the interest of future generations at the table, because everybody shouts for their own demands. Everybody has their own short-term interests. Today in my talk, I will show you some examples of how this can be done differently. So I hope my PowerPoint will be shared with you, because you can start working tomorrow on a better tomorrow based on law. You have international law backing you up if you work on future generations. And I also have to thank indigenous people. When I first started working on the rights of future generations, I did this with a mental perspective. Like, it is mentally or it's legally wrong to not take into consideration their interests and needs. And then I heard about the 7-generation principle. And then I talked to indigenous people and they said, Jan, this is not a rational thing. It's not like a planning mechanism in which you take into consideration future generation. It is about being connected today to your ancestors. Where are you from? Who are you? Where do you come from? To everything that is alive today. What influences you? What feeds you? What are you connected to? And then automatically future generations are here in the room today. You don't have to envision them. They are here today. So thank you for the indigenous people. And the indigenous people also made me change my dress. I usually wear a suit with a tie, but I had a jacket made. So when I'm the ombudsman for future generations, I'm surrounded by the Sustainable Development Goals, and I have the Universal Declaration on Human Rights in the back. So I'm backed up by human rights, surrounded by the Sustainable Development Goals. And a few weeks ago, I found in a very small village where my ancestors came from in the Netherlands, somebody who collected the traditional wear. And I'm actually wearing, this is more than 100 years old, and this is more than 200 years old. So this should be in a museum. This is what my ancestors wore when they went to church on Sunday, when they were not working on the land. So I'm very honored to wear this, and also to have happy shoes, because if we root it okay, the future will be right? Will be bright. So there's a lot of symbolism as well in future generations. And then when the indigenous challenged me, who are your ancestors? I said, I don't even know. So I went on My Heritage. I was already there with my DNA, and I started, because I wanted to research what sort of DNA do I have. And it turns out, so right here you can see 7 generations of Jan van de VENIS. It's 252 ancestors. With most of you, it will be 254. Somewhere a nephew and a cousin find themselves here, and they also had a child. So if there's anything that you don't like that I say, or I get glitches again, then that's the explanation. But I found out that I'm Jan, the son of Arend, son of Jan, son of Arend, son of Jan, son of Jan Gerrit, son of Gerrit Harms van de VENIS, who 7 generations ago thought of the name Van de VENIS. And my name is connected, Van de VENIS means from the peatland. My name is connected to the land. So I not only have my ancestors, I have the land that I am connected to. And we are so lost on that. We are many, many last names. I'm not sure how that is in Spain and in Basque country, but many Dutch last names have a place in it. You are from, I don't know, Bourbon, or from a city, or from anywhere. To not get lost in the future, you must know your past, right? I think it was Honecker, the German counselor, who said once, he who doesn't know his history does not understand today and does not have the tools to go into the future. We have to know where we are from, and this is where I'm from. These are my ancestors who worked the land. This is my great-grandfather, and he worked so hard for his son to get opportunities in life, to do more. And you can actually see this wear. It's the same that I'm wearing here today. So I'm quite proud to re-identify with him. They worked on the land with respect for the land. There were rivers that brought new soil and made it fertile, but the sea also took land. So I have ancestors who lost everything due to a flood. And when I heard about that story, when I heard about the story of the flood, it resonated in me. Somehow I remembered this, the respect for nature, the respect for the land. And look what AI does today. I only had this picture and I've never seen them. And suddenly they sort of become real persons. I get to reconnect to my ancestors. And I know that maybe my great-grandchildren will look back on videos of me today. And then what will be my legacy? What will I have done for them? Not as a guilt thing, but as a pleasure. It would be so great to hand over a beautiful, prosperous planet to my children and future generation. But there's also science that is actually more and more proving what indigenous communities have told, and actually even the Bible speaks of for many, many millennia, that disasters in a family can continue for 3 or 4 generations onwards. Epigenetics has proven, and this is a professor in the Netherlands that I work a lot with, Professor Tessa Rosenboom. She did her PhD research on the Dutch hunger winter. So the Second World War, we had a hunger winter. And the women who were carrying babies, who were hungry for the first 3 months of their pregnancy, their children statistically have impossible high numbers on schizophrenia, heart diseases, and mental problems. And she connected this to the hunger of the mother, to the stress of the mother. And we already knew this due to mice experiments. If you give a mice mother or a rat mother a lot of fear, you get also very fearful children. But now we have science proving that if we do wrong and if we create stress, we create less positive future generations. And in the Netherlands, it's crucial where you are born. Not if you're rich, you have a better future. You learn about how to cooperate and to co-op in society. But also you live in the places in the Netherlands where the air quality is better. We work a lot on environmental issues as well. And we already know that children that are born in an area with a lot of air pollution will come into this world with permanent brain damage. That's not what we want, right? Why don't we invest in clean air so we get prosperous future generations and less also issues with healthcare and problems in the future? Because this is the state of the planet. We're eating it up. We're creating problems. You know, there's all these problems with coral reefs, air pollutions, climate change. My country will be drowning in a few decades. Well, we have so much money, we probably build higher dikes. But many people on this planet are already suffering due to many of the issues that we create. And the World Economic Forum a few years ago actually prognosed it's not cybercrime, it's not Russia, it's not defense issues, it is extreme weather, climate action failure, natural disaster, biodiversity loss, and human-made environmental damage and disasters that will actually will be an enemy to us. So we are looking, if you look at this, you're saying, oh, we're all these animals are going extinct. If we continue like this, we are the first species that will suffer the greatest consequences, and we're doing this for our future generations. And I can deal with all these issues. We deal with with the Lab for Future Generation, we deal with a lot of environmental issues, but also with social issues. But I think one of the clearest issues that we tend to not really speak about is water. And there's a very clear example. In this circle on this planet, we have more people living inside of it than outside of it. 4 billion people live in this circle. And look where today water stress is on the world. So we already see that the Himalaya glaciers have melted so much away that there is no steady flow of water. Climate change is causing too much or too little water in areas in Thailand and everywhere. And here is what the water stress is today. But this is the prognosed water stress in 10 years. And you can see in an area where 4 billion people, these people will have to move. And they will go somewhere where there is less water stress. And I know in Spain, in Europe, you actually have quite a lot of water stress as well. You also had the extreme weather with too much rain in Valencia. But people will be coming to this land. And actually, we are talking about less migration in the Netherlands. No, we are creating the migration and the migration issues for our future generations if we don't change our way. And I think this is one of the, I can almost not understand this graphic. Around 1900, we had, on the global scale, if you count mammals and kilos of mammals, we would have 10% of people and all their livestock, and 90% would be wild animals. Lions, squirrels, deers, wolves, bears. Right now, it's only 4% of all the kilos of mammals on the planet are wild animals. 34% is us, humans, and the rest, 62%, is animals that we keep for our food. You can already tell, just by looking at it, that's not sustainable. It will not survive. It will not work for our future generations. And at the same time, we are connected to this life. In fact, we are all mini ecosystems as we sit here. Probably many of you don't even know, but every one of you is carrying 1 to 1.5 kilos of non-human life with you right now. In your stomach and on your skin. It's the bacteria. And it's not the bacteria that, I don't know, that are just there. No, the bacteria actually transform our food in something that we can digest. So we are, in fact, a mini ecosystem. So when you have your coffee or your lunch later on, think about it. You will not be feeding you, but you will be feeding the bacteria that will feed you. And if you care about your own ecosystem inside, you will care about the ecosystem outside, right? But through our DNA, we are here, but we are connected to the first life that started on Earth. And we had all these extinction, some due to comets, and the last one, they're actually saying we already started the last one. The humans have started the last mass extinction wave. And we were just so lucky to just be allowed to develop, because the dinosaurs ruled the world, and they were taken out by a big, massive rock. And that's how mammals came into it. That's how we got here. But look how long we have been here, just so short and with such a huge impact. We have to change this. We have to change and move from a pyramid model where humans are on top of the world into the system that we belong to, where humans are part of the world. So a lot of the work on future generation is actually also on changing this narrative, changing the way that we live. And this is based on human rights. A healthy environment is now part of human rights. It's no longer a discussion. The right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment has also been adopted. But we need biodiversity. We need air. We need water. We need good food for us to live as well. So now I went through the depressing things, and I now move towards the hope. So the story now gets more positive. I hope you're still with me. But there is hope. There's so many changes internationally, and some things are going so fast, and I'm just happy to be able to share a few with you today. So there's the developments at the UN level. The lawsuits based on human rights are making a big change. We are really seeing now what the law is on future generation. I will share some of that as well. And there's things like the Future Generations Watchdog, the book, Roman Krčnářek, The Good Ancestor. Has anyone read that? It's a really good tip to read this as well. Well, let's go first to human rights. From a human rights perspective, it's very simple. We have human rights, and our children and our future generation will also have human rights. So we have to respect them. And many human rights actually literally mention future generation. The right to food says we have to work our land and produce our food in such a way that future generations can also benefit from the land. The right to water and sanitation said we have to use water in a way and protect natural water resources in a way so that future generations also have a right to water and can also acknowledge and have their right to water. So human rights and future generations are very, very clearly linked. And this is also why many of those lawsuits are being won around the world. But we also have hope on new leadership. We have our children. So this was Greta, but we have many more children also in the Netherlands. They said, why do I go to school if you don't listen to scientists? And again, we are having the debate. People are saying the science is not true, or the science is incorrect, or we just don't know. But the science is so clear. I gave you a few examples of that. And this is where the law is also stepping in. So the human rights law is changing, but we also see new elements, like rights of nature and ecocide law. Is it a criminal act to intentionally ruin the environment? If I ruin something here, it's vandalism. If I ruin the environment, I can have a permit and it's perfectly fine, which is crazy in a sort of way. Sustainable Development Goals, I already mentioned them, they really say we want to make the future we want, to implement the agenda for future generations. And that's when we, in 2016, you can see me here, only being it's almost 10 years ago. In Hungary, we set up the network of institutions for future generations. Back then, there was a commissioner in the Knesset in Israel, a commissioner for future generations. There was a Hungarian ombudsman for future generations. And we were working on the Act on the Well-being for Future Generations in Wales. And the Wales example has been the shining example all over the world. And you will have someone from Wales in the afternoon as well, and she will speak about that. And what I like about the Welsh example is that it's not really a stick approach. So a stick approach will say, you do things wrong, so you have to change. What the Wales approach says, no, if you forgot to include future generations in your designing of a new program or policy, we will help you. Do it again and do include the future generation. So it's more of a carrot. You want to do this. And this was Sophie Howe. She was also the chair of the Network of Institutions for Future Generations. This is now Derek Walker. He's the current commissioner in Wales. But we also have the Maastricht Principles on Human Rights and Future Generations, an overview of all the human rights that mention future generations. And last year, maybe some of you were there as well. I was there in New York. Now we have a Pact for the Future and a UN Declaration on Future Generations. Read it, learn from it, and use it in your work. It's beautiful, and it's been adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations. So by implementing this here in Spain, you will be implementing international law. So it's good. It's always good if you work with it. It will always be beneficial. And then the case law. In 1993, there was a first lawyer in the Philippines who said, I want to sue my government because they are ruining our rainforest. And the rainforests are protected in the constitutions also for future generations. But I don't have a client. Nobody wants to take this case to court. And he was a young lawyer then. He's still alive today. He went to his friends and said, can I represent your children? Can I be the lawyer of your children? I don't need to be paid, but I want to do this case. And he won the case. And this was the first time globally that the Supreme Court of the Philippines said the right of future generations demand that we protect this forest and we don't cut it away. And that set all sorts of cases in movement. Youth in the United States who won a case where a judge said, I care about climate change and I care about the people in Bangladesh who get floods every year, but I don't have jurisdiction in Bangladesh. I care about the polar bears on the North Pole that are going extinct, but I don't have jurisdiction on the North Pole. But these children in my court today ask me to implement their rights and the rights of future generations. And I do have jurisdiction in this court. So this is what the judges are saying. If the policy is not good enough, if the government is not doing enough, if companies are polluting too much, they will step in and protect the rights of those who cannot yet represent themselves. And this is happening all over. The Dutch Urgenda case, probably famous here as well, world famous because of the biggest climate change case won against the government in the Netherlands. I was an advisor on the case. And that was done and won. And the judge said, any policy needs to include the rights of future generations. And if we know something is beneficial for future generations, if we act sooner, and it's not disproportionately expensive that we act sooner, we must act sooner because of the interests of future generations. Suddenly, law is drawing future generations into the realm. Now, just ask for the PowerPoint and you will have these two. It's too much to go into this. But there's more. Maybe you remember the Klimaseniorinnen, the elderly women from Switzerland who won the case at the European Court. There's an advisory opinion on the climate change and human rights. So the law is going so fast, and it's confirming and reconfirming future generations have rights, and we have to take them into consideration. But in the end, it should not be necessary, right? We shouldn't go to courts if our rights are already there to be implemented by politicians and by public servants that can do this. And I will show you a few examples in the end of my slides on how you can do this. So the United Nations General Human Rights Committee also said you need to do this. In a few cases, they said the rights of future generations are under threat. We need to implement that. And then there's another movement that it's so much connected to the human rights movement. It's the rights of nature movement. There's a global rise, and it's the biggest movement in law worldwide. I'm also a UN Harmony with Nature expert on this. It's the rights of nature. Can we look at nature differently, as not something that we owe or own, but something that is a subject of rights, something just like us that has rights and that we need to respect? And this is the rights of nature movement. And I've done a TED talk on that. If you want to see that, it's Who Owns Nature? It's on YouTube. But we've also written reports on the Wadden Seas. And it's like this, I would say. This volcano keeps on erupting, and the ground keeps on renewing. And then humans, typically men, would say, if it's no one's land, I can take it. It's my land. But Jean-Jacques Rousseau already said a few hundred years ago, before that times, the land was communal. No one owned land. The land was from everyone. And you could harvest from the land, and you could have your sheep walk on the land, but you would not own the land. And he said, the stupid thing is that some probably guy said, now this is my land. And nobody said, no, that's impossible. You cannot own land. And he said, we have to rethink this. And this is actually the rethinking that we are doing today. Constitutional in Ecuador and Bolivia, Pachamama is in the Constitution, Mother Nature is in the Constitution before humans are in the Constitution. In Colombia, there was a court case up to the Supreme Court where the Supreme Court said, I am invoking your rights of the young people that are here today for your future and on a healthy Amazon, but I'm also giving rights to the Amazon. So the Amazon is now a holder of rights. But there are also, it says turtles in Dutch. I'm sorry, I didn't translate this. But there are also animal species that gets right, which is not my main approach. I would love to protect ecosystems as whole living beings. And the most beautiful example, and I think this really works well and was an inspiration, which I will mention as well, for Mar Menor here in Spain, is the rivers in New Zealand. Rivers that were granted rights. And they create a whole new mechanism where we need to include the interests of non-human life. And this happened indeed as well in Spain. Most of you will probably have known or know of this. And this is the first case in Europe. And we are very happy to see, well, we were very sad to see that it requires a huge disaster for people to wake up and to give rights to an animal, or to an area, but that it helps. And it's now your biggest export product on rights of nature. All of Europe, people talk about Mar Menor. How can we also do this? How can we create the same governance? And how can we protect nature? Nature is not an object, but a subject of law. And many cities, especially in the United States, are also doing this. So in the borough, in Tamaqua Borough, residents are not just humans. Residents are also non-human life. And people can stand up for the rights of other life, which is amazing. And in Paris, in 2025, Mayor Ana Hidalgo said the Seine is an honorary citizen of the city. And because of that, we need to give her rights as well. So the movement is growing. And then I was thinking, what about Bilbao? I think you call the Nervión River La Ria, right? Why doesn't she have rights? And what would it mean? What would it mean if the river here had rights? Or the Urdaibai Reserve, which I actually found out. I'm going to go there tomorrow, because it's connected to the national park on Texel that I chair. The birds fly there and back. So I was already here through my birds and the animals that live in the national park that I chair. So future generations have rights, and so does nature. Now, and then almost last but not least, and then we will do an exercise which will actually allow you to experience a little bit of the future. when governments go slow, sometimes companies even go faster. And we see a big movement all around the world where companies are actually saying, we want to include future generations. So we have youth board, or we have young people representing future generations, or we want to have nature on our board. And this was done at big bank in the Netherlands, ABN AMRO, but also Patagonia, who said, we will put our shares in a foundation, and not humans, but nature is the boss in this foundation. And this was analyzed by Nijenrode Business University, a Dutch business university, and they came up with onboarding nature. If you would like to know more of this, go to onboardingnature.com, and it shows you different examples of how an organization, but also a public organization, can take into consideration the rights of nature and future generations. Almost there. A few weeks ago, so we can really, I would like to inspire you to also be part of this change and to take on the interests of future generations in your work. So it's about intergenerational equity, but also about equity towards the future generations that we need to include in our work. And I was at Euro Commissioner McKelliff's office just a few weeks ago, and he's taking this on very seriously. So again, Europe is going to support this as well. He's saying, I need farmers, I need fishermen, I need industry, all to include this intergenerational dialogue, because right now we are only living for today, and we're not leaving anything behind. This needs to change. And last week there was a ruling of the European Court of Human Rights that actually repeated what governments actually need to do when there's a potential threat of damage. So any public servant here, minister, mayor, politician, you need to adequately, timely, and comprehensively, according to the best available science, value it before you give a permit to a potentially dangerous activities that may be harmful for the rights of people today and for future generations. And then this is the biggest one, and then we go into the exercise. Maybe you've heard about it. I was actually there. I saw this picture. This is on UN. I was supporting the youth that actually brought this case to the International Court of Justice. So the International Court of Justice in July was asked to give an advisory opinion on climate change, but it made it much broader. It took also environmental damage into it, and the damage that we are doing to the planet. And the court, I mean, if you want to use words for any new policy in the work that you do, it said intergenerational equity, so intergenerational solidarity, is an expression of the idea that present generations are trustees of humanity, tasked with preserving dignified living conditions and transmitting them to future generations. This means that due regards to the interests of future generations and the long-term implementations need to be taken into account where states contemplate, decide, or implement policies. So we need to work with these. We need to take these with us. And if we do so, we realize international law. I guess that's what we all want to do, right? And it's not that new. Already in 1996, the court said that the environment is not an abstraction, but represents the living space, the quality of life, and the very health of human beings, including generations unborn. So last but not least, we need to work with this. We need to work with it because we want to connect with the future generations. They will be our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren, as we will now learn from the exercise. So it should be both the carrot side and the stick. The carrot is, what is your legacy? When you are 65 or 70 and you look back on what you did in your work, what will you hand over to the people that will come then, and to your future generation? But also the stick, we will see if you do wrong, you will be sued. The law is clear now, so people will pick up the battle. So we need rules, acknowledge these rights, please, also in the Basque country and in Spain, and institutions create something like an ombudsman or a commissioner to watch this, to watch over this. And indeed, ask for the PowerPoint if you want this, or ask me if you want help on this. So that is the theory. So thank you very much. I'm just happy that I'm not booed at, so that means you all will work on this, right? You will now all work on the intergenerational equity. But I would like to give you an experience of what it is. Because with the Lab for Future Generations, we were working on future generations, but more also rationalistic. And then we came into people that said, with the rationale, I cannot do anything. Because I don't know how I am connected. So we developed an exercise. And this exercise can be done even more in depth, so we can actually create the whole new vision for a company or for a public institution based on this exercise. And you can also work on a specific theme that is a challenge. So we worked on this with angry farmers who did not want to change. And after they did this exercise, they said, now we need to change for our future generations. I've done this with ministers, with captains of industries, with members of parliament, and they are all still okay. They all survived. And it's not a meditation, but you will close your eyes, and I will take you on a journey. So I will all ask you to take a deep breath. Put your feet on the ground, 2 feet on the ground. Feel comfortable in the seat that you're in, and close your eyes while you're steadily breathing. So breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Just join me in this exercise. And we are here today in Bilbao, in this center, thinking about intergenerational equity. Breathe in, breathe out. And to do so, we want to connect to our future generations and also to our ancestors. So I will take you on a trip back in time and also into the future. So breathe in, breathe out. Please, as you sit here with your eyes closed, envisage behind you your parents. Every one of us has 2 parents. Maybe you don't have a good connection or relationship with your parents, then just envision 2 adults behind you. And behind your parents, you will envisage in this room 4 grandparents. We all have 4 grandparents. They are behind your parents. And maybe you haven't known them, maybe you have, but most of you will have very good connections with your grandparents. They are there behind you. And behind your grandparents, you will have your great-grandparents. That's already 8 people. So there's 2, 4, 8 people behind you. And those great-grandparents, some of you may have known, you may have heard stories of, but they are there. They are connected to you. Their stories resonate through your stories. Their stories are your stories. Their culture is your culture. Their land is your land. You are connected to your great-grandparents, to your grandparents, and your parents. And some of the things that happened in the past may not have been nice and you want to forget, but some of the things you really want to take forward. For instance, the things that they've done for you. Some of your grandparents intentionally did things or did things not to create a beautiful or a more beautiful life for you today. We are connected to our ancestors. And we can also be ancestors. So with the realization, and you will never get this vision lost in the future, that you have your ancestors behind you, we move now back into the seat where you are. And you are still conscious about those 14 people you have behind you, only 3 generations ago. But now we move into the future. So before you, you see 2 children. And maybe you have 1 child, or you don't have children, or you have more children, then you will just envision the amount of children that you want. And in front of those 2 children, there will be 4 grandchildren. And if you already have grandchildren, you will see the grandchildren that you have. And before those 4 grandchildren, you will see 8 great-grandchildren. Young people in the future. So you have 14 people behind you and 14 people in front of you. You are the center. You are the offspring of your ancestors, but you are also an ancestor for future generations. And you connect to the future generations. We walk into the future. We walk past our 2 children into the future. Just envision this. Into the future, past our 4 grandchildren. Almost we're there. We walk all the way up to our 8 great-grandchildren. And we are in the year 2100. So you're in the future. Now look one of your great-grandchildren in the eyes. One of those 8. What do you see? Is it a boy? Is it a girl? What What does the experience bring you, the connection with future generations? And what you do now is you see through the eyes of your great-grandchild, you see the future. And the future is beautiful, so we don't take into the negativity into the future. What you see is a beautiful future, a future that you would want or you would want to give to those future generations. And it can be anything you work on. If you work in education, or in culture, or on farming, or on natural protection, or on culture, or on climate change, the future is bright. You see a beautiful future through the eyes of your great-grandchildren. What do you see? Do you hear anything? Do you smell anything? How is it there? Just experience the most beautiful future through the eyes of your great-grandchild. And right now I'm going to ask you to remember this view and to where you are in the future with your 8 great-grandchildren to look back. So you now look back from the future to today. You can see us sitting in this room in 2025, but you are still in 2100. And you can see all the changes that need to be made to get to this beautiful future. And slowly you walk back through time from your great-grandchildren to your grandchildren to your children. And whilst you are walking, you are seeing the changes that need to be made, but also the changes that you can make in your work to get to this most beautiful and desired future for your great-grandchildren. And you walk back to today, and you get back into your chair today. And as you sit here today, you are still conscious about your ancestors who are behind you and the future generations that will come. And you've experienced the connection with your future generations. And from now onwards, this is something that we want to work on. We want to create this beautiful future for future generations. So everyone, be back in your seat, feel your feet on the ground, breathe again. If you need to, you can shake a bit, but you're back into the room. You may open your eyes again. And we are here and we have experienced the future. Is everyone back again? Nobody left in the future? No one left behind? Good, good. I think we have like 2 or 3 minutes to do a quick vote, but I can do this exercise very concrete and more in depth. And then afterwards we always look at what do we leave behind? What are the things we need to leave behind? What are the things we want to take into the future? And what are the things that we need to do new to create this beautiful future? But how was it for you? I'm curious. Does anyone have something they want to share on connecting with the ancestors, for instance? How was that? Going back in time, connecting to your ancestors. Who dares? Anyone? Don't be shy. No? No sharing on ancestors? And on the future generation, what did you see? What did you see? Joseba. Only if you want, only if you want. Yes, please.
I'm going to speak in Spanish, okay? Me he dado cuenta de cosas que se han perdido por el camino también.
Can we all heard this? Yeah? Is there anyone else that wants to add to that? Any positive or negative experience? Some people also have, many young people have a problem to look into a beautiful future. They say we have so many negativity, it's going such a bad way, we can't see a beautiful future. And we done this also with the farmers. They said also we do everything wrong, right? We cannot produce the land, and we need to have less cows, and in the future there will be no farmers. And then I said, no, we will do this again, but you have to envision there will be farmers. And then the farmers themselves said, now we see that we have to change our business. Because there can be farmers, but they just need to be more in balance with nature. We need to have less cows, we need to produce good quality of food, and we need to ask more money for this. So this is what we will do. And they actually started doing this. This group of farmers, without a subsidy from the government started to do this. They changed their behavior. Is there anyone who wants to share anything on this exercise? Or maybe a question from the presentation? No? Okay, well, you can always ask me over coffee or over lunch. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.